Here's a psychology fact most women will never hear, and most men will never admit. There are certain women that stay locked inside a man's mind for years, sometimes forever. Not because they begged, not because they chased, but because they quietly understood something about male psychology that most people completely overlook. These women didn't play games, they applied invisible rules. And once a man experiences a woman like this, he never fully recovers. See, most people think men move on easily, that they forget fast, that they simply replace one woman with another and keep walking. But psychologists have studied this for decades, and the truth is the complete opposite. Research shows men often take significantly longer to emotionally recover from a meaningful connection than women do. The difference is, men hide it, they bury it, they distract themselves. But deep inside, that one woman still lives there, rent-free. And the women who leave that kind of permanent mark all share specific patterns of behavior, 7 of them to be exact. And once you understand these rules, you will see relationships in a way you never have before. But here's where it gets really interesting. These rules are not what you expect. They have nothing to do with looks, nothing to do with physical attraction, nothing to do with saying the right words at the right time. These are rooted deep in human psychology, and most women who apply them don't even realize they are doing it. That's what makes them so powerful. Rule number 1, she never chased validation from him. Psychology calls this emotional independence, and it is one of the most magnetic traits a human being can carry. Most people in relationships constantly seek reassurance. They want to hear they are loved. They want to feel chosen. They want proof that they matter. And there is nothing wrong with that on the surface. But here is the harsh truth. When someone constantly seeks validation, the other person's brain unconsciously begins to devalue them. It is not cruelty, it is wiring. The brain assigns higher value to things it cannot easily predict or control. So when a woman carries a quiet inner security, when she does not need a man to feel complete, something shifts inside his psychology. He begins to lean in. He begins to wonder. He begins to chase. Not because she played hard to get, but because she genuinely was not desperate for his approval. And that kind of woman haunts a man long after she walks away, because he knows she did not need him, she chose him. And if he lost her, he lost someone who would be perfectly fine without him. That realization never leaves. And here is the painful part most people avoid admitting. The reason most relationships lose their spark is not because love fades, it is because one person becomes too available, too predictable, too dependent, and the other person's brain slowly stops associating them with value. Psychology says people do not lose interest because something is wrong with you. They lose interest because the challenge disappeared, the mystery dissolved, and their brain simply moved on to the next source of stimulation. That is not romantic, but it is real. Rule number 2, she had a life that did not revolve around him. This connects directly to something psychologists call the scarcity principle. When something is always available, the brain takes it for granted. When something has its own world, its own schedule, its own passions, the brain perceives it as more valuable. The women men never get over always had their own thing going on, their own goals, their own circle, their own fire. They loved deeply, yes, but they never abandoned their identity to become someone's full-time emotional support system. They had depth beyond the relationship, and when a man looks back on that kind of woman, he does not just miss her presence, he misses the energy she carried, he misses the world she brought with her, he misses how alive he felt around someone who was fully alive on her own. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. Most people lose themselves in love. They merge, they shrink, they put everything into one person, and then wonder why that person slowly pulled away. And this next rule explains exactly why that happens. Rule number 3, she respected herself enough to walk away. This is one of the most psychologically powerful things a person can do in a relationship, walking away when something no longer serves you. Not with anger, not with drama, not with a loud explosion designed to punish the other person, but with calm dignity, with calm self-respect, with a clear understanding that love should never require you to betray yourself. Psychologists call this boundary enforcement, and it is one of the biggest predictors of long-term attraction. When a woman shows a man that she will not tolerate disrespect, that she values herself more than she fears being alone, it creates a psychological imprint that never fades. Because most people stay, most people accept less than they deserve, most people are terrified of being on their own. So when a man meets a woman who is not afraid to leave, something clicks inside him that says, "This one is different." And years later, when he's lying awake at 3 in the morning, that's the woman he thinks about, not the one who stayed and suffered, the one who loved herself enough to go. This happens because your brain stores emotional experiences based on intensity, not duration. A calm, self-respecting woman who walks away creates a spike in emotional intensity that the brain encodes as deeply significant. Your mind does not remember the years of comfortable routine. It remembers the moments that shook you, the moments that challenged your sense of control, the moments that forced you to confront your own behavior. And a calm, walking away woman creates exactly that kind of moment. Strong, clear tone. Rule number 4, she was emotionally intelligent. Thoughtful, deeper tone. This one runs deeper than most people realize. Emotional intelligence is not about being overly sensitive or crying during movies. It's the ability to understand emotions, yours and the other person's. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's sensing the shift in someone's energy before they even say a word. Warm, intimate tone. Women who carry high emotional intelligence make men feel seen in a way no one else ever has, and that feeling is addictive. Because most men walk through life feeling emotionally invisible. Society tells them to be strong, to suppress, to man up. Gentle, almost tender. So when a woman looks at a man and actually understands what's going on beneath the surface, it creates a bond that is almost impossible to break. Reflective, knowing tone. He may not talk about it, he may not even realize it at the time, but years later, he will remember her as the one who truly got him. Slower, meaningful. And that feeling of being deeply understood is something the male brain never stops craving once it has experienced it.
If any of this is hitting close to home, good. That means you needed to hear it. Because the next 3 rules are even more powerful. And the last one is the one that changes everything. Rule number 5. She was consistent, not dramatic. Psychology has a term called intermittent reinforcement. It is when someone gives you love unpredictably, hot one moment, cold the next. And while that pattern can create obsession, it does not create lasting emotional impact. It creates anxiety. The women men never truly get over are not the ones who kept them on an emotional roller coaster. They're the ones who showed up the same way every single day. Warm, steady, real. Consistency builds trust, and trust builds psychological safety, and psychological safety is the foundation of every deep human connection. When a man experiences a woman who is consistently kind, consistently honest, consistently present, his brain does not just fall in love, it attaches deeply. And detaching from that kind of bond is one of the hardest things the human brain can do. That is why years later, he still compares everyone to her, not because she was perfect, but because she was reliable. And reliability in an unstable world is one of the most underrated forms of love. Rule number 6. She made him want to grow. This rule is about inspiration, not pressure. The women men never forget are not the ones who nagged them into changing. They're the ones who made them want to change simply by being who they were. Psychologists call this the Michelangelo effect. It is the idea that close partners can shape each other into their ideal selves, not through criticism, but through belief and encouragement. When a woman sees potential in a man and reflects it back to him without demanding it, something powerful happens. He starts to rise, not for her, but because of her. He becomes more motivated, more focused, more intentional. And if that relationship ends, he doesn't just lose a partner, he loses the version of himself that only existed around her. And that is a loss the brain processes as deeply painful. Because it's not just about missing her, it's about missing who he was becoming because she was in his life. And now we reach the final rule, the one that ties everything together. Rule number 7. She never tried to be unforgettable. She just lived authentically. This is the most psychologically powerful rule of all, and it's the simplest. The women who stay permanently in a man's mind are not performing, they are not strategizing, they are not reading scripts on how to manipulate emotions. They are simply being real, authentic, unapologetically themselves. Psychology tells us that the human brain is wired to detect authenticity. We are constantly scanning for social masks, for performative behavior, for people who are trying too hard. And when someone comes along who is genuinely, deeply real, it disarms us. It breaks through every wall. It creates a level of intimacy that no technique or tactic could ever replicate. And that's the woman a man never recovers from. The one who wasn't trying to be special. She just was. Not because she followed a set of rules, but because she understood her own worth. She honored her own boundaries. She stayed true to who she was regardless of the outcome. And in a world full of masks, that kind of raw honesty is the rarest and most unforgettable thing a person can offer. So here's the truth you've been avoiding. It was never about being prettier. It was never about being more available. It was never about doing more. It was always about being more grounded, more secure, more real. The woman a man never forgets is not the one who gave him everything. She's the one who knew her value and never let anyone convince her otherwise. And if that hit you today, carry it with you. Because psychology doesn't lie, and neither does the ache a man feels when he realizes the one who got away was the one who simply refused to lose herself.